let's take another question. All right. This is from Reddit, Entrepreneur subreddit. I've been spending some time there. I think my handle's just Jason Calacanis. It might be Jason M. Calacanis. What are some cliches cliche entrepreneur phrases that make your eyes glaze over? That's a great question. There's a lot of bad advice out there. I'm trying to think of what is the worst advice I've heard of late. It's a really good question. All of this advice is situational. So let me just take a different spin on this, because I can't think of a cliche off the top of my head that I hate or that make me glaze over. What I will tell you is advice is situational, and then there are outliers, and those outliers are, the exceptions that make the rule. So if you see some company raise a ridiculous amount of money and you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. It could be a fluke. It could be a random piece of behavior. And, it's one of those things that you have to take all the advice you can get as a founder, and then you have to understand that the best decisions you can make will come from data and talking to customers. Now, creating value, building a brand, I know the original poster brings up some of those things. Building a brand is a real thing. Apple's brand means something to people. Instagram's means something to people. Even Brandless, the unbranding brand one, now means something to people. Hustle, I think, and disruption are two words that are becoming maligned. The reason hustle is becoming maligned is because I think people find Gary Vaynerchuk a little bit abrasive in his approach. He's candid. He's from New York. He wants to see people succeed. And I think people on the West Coast are it's an East Coast, West Coast thing. They're like, it doesn't have to be crazy at work, and you can take it easy. You don't have to hustle. A lot of that advice about not hustling is a reaction to mental health breakdowns that people have had, suicides, burnout. And again, it's situational, to my point earlier. If you're in a competitive space and it's Lyft versus Uber versus Sidecar, and you don't hustle, you become Sidecar. Or if you hustle less, you become Lyft. Now, is Lyft a failure at a $20 or $30 billion valuation versus Uber's 70, 80, 90, 100? No, it's not a failure. It's a huge success. Anybody who can build a $10, $20 billion business has built a huge success. But if they had hustled, maybe they would have beat Uber if they had more hustle in them. And so to be anti-hustle means you're saying you're okay with not being first place. The teams that win in the NBA, the Olympians, they're hustling and they're sacrificing. So people who achieve greatness sacrifice. They may sacrifice by not seeing their family or kids as much as people who do. If an Olympian said, I am going to train for the next 60 days in the mountains, and I'm not going to see my kids for the next 60 days, many people would say, okay, your kids will appreciate that. You made that sacrifice. They will forgive you for taking those 60 days off from the family to go train at some elevation. If you come back and you've got a gold or silver medal and you placed in the Olympics, it's an understandable sacrifice. When it comes to business, people might be think that's less meaningful. I don't. I think if you had to sacrifice, maybe not see your family for some period of time, you went on a business trip, you might be setting them the example that hard work is virtuous and that hustling is worth it. Now, if you're hustling and you're sitting in front of your computer every day, replying to email that is not actually moving the needle for you, well, maybe that you didn't need to sacrifice and not see your family or not see your friends. Under no circumstances should you hustle to the point at which you have a nervous breakdown and consider a horrible decision like suicide. And so I think it's very easy to fall on either side of the hustle debate. But the truth is, it's situational and it's very nuanced. And I don't criticize people who don't want to hustle because they want to have an easy life and they want to surf and they want to wake up naturally and go to bed under the stars and not check their phone for a month. Mazel tov. If that's your choice, go for it. I'm big on individual freedom, and I'm big on people having individual freedom at different points in their life. I do not hustle in the insane way I used to. I used to be a 7-day-a-week, 12-hour-a-day person. But you know what? Now I'm at the top of the hill, and I fought my way here, And I could take it a little bit easy. Yeah, of course. If I want to take a vacation, I can take it. If I want to come into work at 11 o'clock, I can do that. And that's what I do. I work from home. I don't do any meetings until 11 because I like to have that time in the morning with my family. I like to have that time in the morning to write and to think. I've earned that. But previously, I was getting into work at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. every day and staying till midnight. And I was very one-dimensional in that way for a good part of my career when I was coming up. I don't regret it. Maybe rich and powerful. And so I think that there's this hustle debate is really interesting. Most of the time when I hear people say you don't have to hustle and you don't have to be crazy at work, they're already millionaires or decamillionaires or centimillionaires. And they're looking backwards saying, oh, I could have done this without. But if Elon Musk takes the pedal off of Tesla, well, it could die. So he's got no choice but to hustle. And if you have Zuckerberg as a competitor in your Snapchat and you take your foot off the pedal, you're going to get run over, which, by the way, is what happened to Snapchat. They got run over and they still exist. It's a $5 billion business, but Zuckerberg definitely out-hustled them. And so now when it comes to disruption, that's a whole nother charged word. What disruption means is you're not going to accept the status quo and you're willing to take risks and you're willing to maybe bend the rules. Disruption has a negative connotation when the bending of the rules breaks something in society. So if you want to bend the rules about scooters and somebody takes their scooter into the middle of the street and kills themselves, yeah, you're going to look like a douche. And if you allowed the scooter to go too fast because you wanted people to get to their destination too fast, you can come up with all the different examples out there. If you're going to bend the rules, you're going to reinterpret the rules like a scooter company might or Airbnb might, you better make sure people are not getting hurt in the process too badly or that the risk is not too high. If you're taking a ton of risk, well, that can be dumb. And so you better make sure that bending the rules is not dangerous. And is not in your interest above the consumers and societies. So Facebook bent the rules a whole bunch. They weren't checking who was buying ads, and the Russians bought ads in rubles to try to create racial tension in our country, to subvert the African-American vote versus, in favor of Trump and against Hillary. This kind of dark stuff. That's the kind of disruption society does not like. Or wholesale giving over your information to advertisers and partners so you can make more money. That's the kind of disruption that society doesn't like. Disrupting saying, hey, you can rent out your extra bedroom in Paris and Tokyo and make a little bit of extra money if you lost your job, or provide a $50 a night option for people who can't afford to go to Paris, and you opened up Paris and Tokyo to a whole nother group of people to visit. Mazel tov, high five, great. That's the kind of bending of rules we need. We need some bending of rules. If it's the bending of the rule of you eliminate dealerships from the car buying process like Tesla's done and they sell direct, that's great. Nobody wants to deal with some dealership nonsense middleman who ruins the process. We all just want to buy direct on a website and get it. So understand if we're talking about hustle and disruption, which are charged words, there are situationally times when you want to hustle and you want to disrupt. But you have to do it in a sophisticated fashion. You don't want to hustle for no reason, and you certainly don't want to disrupt and have people get hurt in the process. Great question.